live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Good evening. Welcome to the National News broadcast coming to you live from the National News Studios here at Rupavahini. I'm Kasuni Balachandra.
And I'm Niket Karnaratna. We'll start off with the headlines as usual.
MP Fauzi returns to Parliament. Sri Lanka receives financing assurances from the Paris Club. Protests against tax hikes continue. A decision to provide water required for paddy cultivation in the Yalla season. The death toll from the Turkey earthquake exceeds the 19,000 mark.
We move on to those and other stories in detail. And in your top local story tonight, former Minister A.H.M. Fauzi was sworn in to fill the vacancy due to the resignation of former MP Mujibur Rahman of the Samagi Janapala Vegaya. Meanwhile, the two-day debate on the policy statement delivered by the President yesterday was commenced today. However, Samagi Janapala Vegaya and National People's Power refrained from taking part in the debate.
Former MP Mujibur Rahman resigned from his parliamentary membership in order to contest as the mayor candidate for the Colombo Municipal Council at the upcoming local government elections. Accordingly, former Minister A.H.M. Fauzi was sworn in to fill the vacancy due to the resignation of the former MP. MP Sanjeeva Edirimana tabled the adjournment resolution over the policy statement delivered by the President in Parliament yesterday. More than 19,300 people are now known to have died after Monday's earthquakes in southern Turkey and northern Syria.
Without shelter, water or fuel and electricity, the World Health Organization fears many survivors could yet lose their lives. At least 16,170 people have died in Turkey, according to the country's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, while at least 3,162 have been killed in Syria. Hopes of finding survivors are quickly fading, and residents of southeastern Turkey and northwestern Syria are criticizing what they call slow search and rescue efforts. Yet amidst the freezing cold, rescue workers are still pulling people out alive from the rubble as search operations continue for a fourth day. Some of the coldest temperatures felt since the earthquake struck southern Turkey occurred Thursday morning as a freezing weather blast envelopes disaster-stricken regions while rescue workers in Turkey and Syria search for survivors. Low temperatures ranged in the quake-hit provinces from -2 degrees Celsius or degrees in Kilis to -4 degrees Celsius in Gaziantep to -6 degrees Celsius in Malatya this morning. Temperatures have since warmed above freezing with the heating of the sun during the day, but will remain around 5 degrees Celsius below average for this time of year. Some 95 nations and 16 international organizations have pledged aid to Turkey following this week's devastating earthquake, Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu said on Thursday. At the moment, 6,479 rescue personnel from 56 countries are in the field, and he added that during a news conference in the capital of Ankara. It's also feared the economic impact on the region could be huge. The ratings agency Fitch suggests the disaster could cause economic losses exceeding $4 billion. Meanwhile, a United Nations aid convoy crossed from Turkey into northwest Syria on Thursday for the first time since Monday's earthquake in the race to get international help into a region beset by years of conflict and an acute humanitarian crisis. There has been anger in Turkey over claims that emergency services responded too slowly to the incident, with some people waiting days for help to reach them. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan yesterday accepted the government had encountered some problems, but said the situation was now under control. 6 UN lorries carrying aid have now crossed the border from Turkey into Syria, the first international help people there have had.
It's scarcely believable, but there can be moments of deep joy amidst the devastation, like when a little boy is found.
Meanwhile, Samagijana Balavege commented on the tax issue and the President's parliamentary speech at a press briefing today. Opposition parliamentarians pointed out that the new issue related to the introduced tax system lines with the tax margin. MP Dr. Harsha De Silva said that there should be a government with the people's mandate to take the country forward through this difficult situation. He said the current debate on taxes is mainly focused on the amount that has to be paid by the people. Dr. Harsha De Silva pointed out that people who launched strikes have never mentioned that they are not going to pay taxes. Instead, their main demand is to change the new tax margin. He further said that there should be taxes, but the whole process could be a fair and justified venture.
International creditors continue to extend their support in financing assurances for Sri Lanka to unlock the $2.9 billion worth extended fund facility from the International Monetary Fund. Recently, the Paris Club expressed their commitment to negotiate debt restructuring with the island nation while providing assurances to support the IMF fund facility. The financing assurances are crucial for Sri Lanka to obtain the $2.9 billion deal from the IMF, which is still pending executive board approval. The government needs to secure finance assurances from key bilateral lenders such as Japan, India and China to unlock the IMF's cash disbursements. So far, India has committed to assist in easing the debt burden of Sri Lanka as part of the IMF program, while China's Exim Bank offered a 2-year moratorium to the country. The Paris Club members jointly with Hungary have expressed a full commitment to negotiate with Sri Lanka terms of restructuring, while Saudi Arabia supported the process but acknowledged the importance to offer financing assurances in the near future. Sri Lanka requires the financing assurances from the Paris Club, which includes Japan, Sri Lanka's second biggest bilateral lender. China and India are not Paris Club permanent members. Paris Club creditors have called on other official bilateral creditors, including China, to extend the financial assurances needed for Sri Lanka in line with the IMF program parameters. Meanwhile, a group of overseas private creditors said recently that they are also ready to engage quickly and effectively with the Sri Lankan authorities on debt rework talks consistent with the IMF's program. Sri Lanka has to restructure debt payments of about $13 billion on 11 international bonds. The group of at least 30 private creditors represents about 60% of all international bondholders. Sri Lanka secured a preliminary deal with the IMF in last September, though funds are yet to be disbursed as the bailout has to be approved by the funds board.
Protests were held in several areas today, demanding to abolish the pay-as-you-earn tax, also known as the pay tax. The postal service workers joined the protest action by wearing black-coloured cloth strips to show their support. The workers attached to post offices in the Hatton area engaged in the protest action in the afternoon. The post office premises were covered with black-coloured flags. The protesters said that the trade union action will continue for 3 days. The postal workers in Panaduru also engaged in a protest action this afternoon. Workers at the Buralla post office also signed a petition this afternoon. Representatives of the joint postal trade unions in Kegal also engaged in a protest action today. Meanwhile, a protest launched by the Joint Health Workers Association of the Colombo Hospital was held in front of the hospital premises this afternoon. The protest was organised with the demands including privatisation, medicine shortage, employee shortage, inflation and transport allowances. The Court of Appeal extended the interim order preventing the imposing of the pay tax on the salaries of judges until the relevant petition is considered. The relevant petitions were filed by Sri Lanka District Judges Association and Sri Lanka Judiciary Officers Association, citing that deducting a tax from their salaries is against the constitutional law.
Many political parties have taken steps to organize public rallies and meetings for the upcoming local government polls. Several rallies were held yesterday as well. A rally organised by Samaga Jana Balawegaya was held in Badulla yesterday with the participation of opposition leader Sajid Premadasa. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa said that a knowledge-based economy should be established. He added that new technology-based production processes should also be included. He said that they will initiate the measures to free the country from existing conspiracy against the nation. A public rally organised by the National People's Power was held in Badulla yesterday with the participation of former MP Bimal Ratnayaka. Former MP Bimal Ratnayaka assured that if their candidates or affiliations commit any significant offence, then such individuals will be removed from the party, having proof. Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna organised a meeting to brief the candidates contesting for the Badulla district at the local polls. The meeting was held with the participation of MP Sagara Karyavasan. Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi said that compared to other countries and with the prevailing facilities, they managed to control the COVID-19 pandemic efficiently. She said that they also successfully carried out the COVID-19 inoculation program as well. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Freedom Party organised a meeting to brief the district candidates over the upcoming elections today. It was held with the participation of MP Dayasiri Jayasekara. MP Dayasiri Jayasekara said that President Ranil Wickremesinghe has made a new proposal not to provide finances instead of essential services. He pointed out that election has not been listed as an essential activity. United National Party also organised a meeting to brief the party candidates contesting at the local polls from Kegaul district. Former MP Sandit Samarasinghe organised the event. Former MP Achala Jagala said that President Ranil Wickremesinghe has proven his strength as a leader by taking up the challenge to rebuild the country.
The United National Party says President Ranil Wickremesinghe is gradually moving the country out of the current crisis situation. These remarks were made during a UNP election candidates meeting at the party headquarters, Sirikota, today. National organizer of the UNP, Sagala Ratnayaka, said that President Ranil Wickremesinghe has brought the country to the current status within a short period. Now there are no queues to buy fuel or gas. We have to move towards the IMF agreement. Mr. Ratnayaka said that the government is optimistic about the agreement and that could be signed within a short period. With that milestone, the country can move ahead on a new path, he said. The Sri Lanka National Centre for Election Monitoring says with the uncertainty prevails over the conducting of the local government political parties.
the ongoing propaganda campaigns of certain political parties, in a letter to the chairman of the Election Commission, the centre has requested to make a statement citing whether the election will be held on the scheduled date. In the letter, the centre has said that the remarks made by the Finance Ministry Secretary or any other relevant authority citing the unavailability of funds cannot be disregarded. Also, the Finance Secretary has informed the courts in an affidavit over the unavailability of funds. Therefore, the letter has raised concerns whether the required funds will be provided to conduct the elections. The letter has further emphasized that all stakeholders should reach a unanimous decision regarding the elections at this juncture.
The United National Party has gained the mayorship of the Seethavakapura Urban Council yesterday. There was a vote conducted within the Urban Council to appoint a new mayor. Susil Premalal of the UNP became the new mayor of the Seethavakapura Urban Council. The 2023 budget presented by the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna was defeated twice recently at votings conducted within the Urban Council. Susil Premalal of the United National Party won 10 votes and UAH Ubesinghe of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna won only 8. There are 23 members in the Seethavakapura Urban Council.
Minister Manush Nanakara says that the government will take urgent actions to bring back 59 Sri Lankan housemaids who are now residing at a safe house in Oman. The minister also pointed out that the remaining staff and other problems will be solved within a short period to the launch of repatriation process. During his official visit to Oman, Minister Manush Nanakara issued a statement to the media. He said 59 female workers who faced various problems and hazardous situations are currently residing at Suraksha safe house maintained by the Sri Lankan Embassy in Oman. Minister Nanakara further said that the President has instructed to bring those female workers to Sri Lanka as an urgent step. He further said that problems relating to the Sri Lanka Embassy staff have been resolved as a step to enhance the repatriation efforts. He expressed his displeasure over certain misleading media reports regarding the safe house in Oman. The Irrigation Department and the Mahavali Authority have agreed to supply water required for paddy cultivation in the Yalla season 2023.
The relevant agreement was reached during a meeting held with the participation of representatives of the Department of Agriculture, Mahavali Authority and Department of Irrigation. Harvesting activities have commenced in paddy cultivated areas for the Maha season. The officials pointed out during the meeting that following the recent rainfall, the small-scale irrigation, large-scale irrigation and tanks and reservoirs belonging to the Mahavali Authority are filled with adequate levels of water required for cultivations. Accordingly, water required for paddy cultivation in the Yalla season is expected to be supplied upon the agreement. Minister Mahinda Amaravira has instructed the Department of Agriculture to encourage farmers to involve in additional crop cultivation during this Yalla season, with the estimates of the Department of Agriculture indicating that the country is expecting to receive a harvest of 2.6 million metric tons of paddy from the Maha season. The attention has now been directed to other crop cultivations. Now, New Zealand Foreign Minister and the Sri Lankan High Commissioner in New Delhi met to discuss on further cooperation between the two countries.
The discussions were held yesterday at the High Commission of New Zealand in New Delhi.
Sri Lanka and New Zealand explored ways and means to further strengthen and deepen cooperation between the two countries. The discussion focused on conceptual contours for a cooperation model for smaller countries in the Indian Ocean region. Further collaboration in the dairy sector was discussed, including possible trilateral arrangements involving Indian investors. Foreign Minister Nanaya Muhuta and High Commissioner Milinda Morogoda also discussed on ways of sharing New Zealand's experience in public financial management and public sector reform with Sri Lanka. High Commissioner of New Zealand to Sri Lanka, Michael Appleton, senior officials of the New Zealand Foreign Ministry and Deputy High Commissioner of Sri Lanka in New Delhi, Niluka Kadurugamua, also attended these discussions.
Sri Lankan Airlines is set to renew its commercial operations to China in the first week of April 2023 with a thrice-weekly service each to Shanghai, Beijing and Guangzhou as China reopens its borders. Flights from Colombo to Beijing will also commence on the 3rd of April. China was a leading source market for inbound tourism to Sri Lanka and one of Sri Lanka's premier leisure traveller segments before the pandemic, and Sri Lankan is positioning for a strong comeback in China upon its return. Sri Lanka will launch passenger flights to Shanghai on the 3rd of April 2023. Accordingly, flights will depart from Colombo to Shanghai every Monday, Thursday and Friday and return from Shanghai to Colombo every Tuesday, Friday and Saturday respectively. Flights are scheduled to depart from Beijing on Monday, Wednesday and Friday every week. The return flights to Colombo will depart on the respective subsequent days.
Ministers Vijayadasa Rajapaksa and Bandalu Gunawardena engaged in an observational tour at the Vataraka Open Prison in Paduka yesterday. The objective of the tour was to inquire into the shortcomings and development activities pertaining to the prison. The detainees at the Vataraka Open Prison are prisoners who have committed minor offences. They receive education and vocational training at the prison. In addition, those who are addicted to illegal narcotics are also being rehabilitated at this establishment.
Today is the 6th day of the Freedom Path Artifacts exhibition organised in view of the 75th National Independence Day celebrations. The exhibition will continue until the 19th of this month. Artifacts and archive documents which were not exhibited until now have been put up for the exhibition. The public can visit the exhibition with the normal entry fee charged to visit the National Museum between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. School children in uniforms will be allowed to visit the exhibition free of charge.
A meeting between Air Traffic Controllers Association and Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva was held today with 9 demands to prevent the outflow of experienced and skilled air traffic controllers to overseas countries. The minister said that necessary measures will be taken to present the issues pertaining to increase the allowances of air traffic controllers to the Treasury and arrange a meeting with the Treasury in this regard. The Air Traffic Controllers Association has agreed to the relevant proposal. The minister directed his attention to resolve the shortage of air traffic controllers to maintain the services at present. Accordingly, the minister instructed the relevant authorities to take necessary measures to recruit qualified officers for training in the next couple of days. The minister also instructed the authorities to take immediate action to arrange presidential facilities in the proximities of Katunayaka and Ratmalana airports. The Ministry Secretary K.D.S. Ruwanchandra was also present on this occasion.
A cultural show was held in Kuwait yesterday to mark the 75th independence anniversary of Sri Lanka. The event was held under the patronage of Minister of Water and Electricity of Kuwait, Dr. Amani Sulaiman. Sri Lankan Embassy in Kuwait organised the cultural show under the guidelines of Sri Lankan Ambassador to Kuwait, Kandipan Balasubramaniam. The cultural heritage of Sri Lanka was showcased at the event, providing Kuwaiti people first-hand experience of Sri Lanka's rich cultural and artistic components. The show was organised with a name to attract more tourists to Sri Lanka and create awareness about the current opportunities in the global market while enhancing the image of the country. Foreign news on the other side of the screen.
Prima Kotumi Fantamai.
Welcome back, and in foreign news tonight, Ukraine's leader has called on EU leaders to provide fighter jets and arms for the war against Russia on his second trip abroad since the war began.
Several EU leaders have already stressed that a decision on warplanes would be a collective move. Some are keen to avoid having the debate being played out in public, while there is also concern about escalation and playing into Russian narratives. The Kremlin warned today that the line between direct and indirect Western involvement in the conflict was disappearing. In his speech to the parliament in Brussels, President Zelensky repeatedly linked Ukraine to a European way of life. Ukraine has applied to join the EU and is urging the bloc's leaders to throw its weight behind a swift course to accession, which usually takes many years. The Ukrainian leader had earlier travelled from Paris with France's Emmanuel Macron, where he had also held talks with Germany's Olaf Scholz. Before visiting Paris, he had been assured by UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak that nothing was off the table.
Prima Katumi Fantamai.
And in your sports news tonight, today is the third day of the second unofficial test between Sri Lanka and England Lions. The match is being played at Galle International Cricket Stadium.
Sri Lanka scored 332 runs for their first innings. In replying Sri Lanka's total, England Lions scored 405 runs. Sri Lanka's second innings was started this afternoon, and at the end of the day, Sri Lanka scored 202 runs for 3 wickets, with Nisham Madhushka scored unbeaten 84 runs.
Prima Katumi Fantamai.
And with that, we conclude tonight's English news on Rupavahini. We'll see you tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.
Good night.